Hello and welcome to another episode of Language Therapy with Dr. K, a podcast from the USC Dornsife Institute of Armenian Studies. My guest today is Armenian-American actor Karren Karagulian, most famously known for his work in Anora, the 5-time Oscar-winning film. In Anora, Karren plays Toros, an Armenian character who seamlessly and authentically maneuvers through English, Armenian, and Russian in all kinds of combinations and permutations. It is significant that in addition to winning the Academy Award for Best Film, Best Director, and Leading Actress, Anora also won the award for Best Original Screenplay, one that features meaningful Armenian dialogue. Karren and I discussed the process of translating real-life multilingualism for the screen and his experience as the unofficial language consultant for Armenian. Specifically, we break down the unique linguistic layers of Anora and the director's trust in both his actors and his audience to deal with the complex language dynamics. We touch on Karren's journey in the industry, his experience as an immigrant in the U.S., his entry into the world of film, and the persistence and support required for a life in the arts. We also discuss his longtime collaboration with director Sean Baker and the importance of depicting Armenian characters as they truly are, regular, complex people just like everyone else. Join us as we delve into the linguistic palette of Anora with the intentionality, playfulness, humor, and agency given to an actor. Karren Karagulian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
This is a question I ask all my guests, and I would like to continue with that tradition. Can you tell me the story of your life through your languages? What languages were you born into? What languages did you pick up? And what languages do you live in today?
Yeah, good question. So I was born into Armenian and Russian, because my mother's side was from Tbilisi, so there was a lot of Russian in my grandma's side from mom. Then at school we were studying French, and I was pretty good. Then we had a private tutor who was coming to our house growing up, teaching us English. So then I went to Army, and because I was going to Georgia a lot growing up, in Army, I had a lot of friends, Georgian friends, so I picked up Georgian and I started speaking. But of course, when you don't speak a language, you forget. So then I came to U.S., obviously English, Armenian, Russian, and I started working with Persians. So it was kind of like either you learn the language to understand and kind of be successful in what I was doing, or you don't, because they only communicated in Persian. So I learned a little bit.
I mean, it's interesting. I'm catching myself being shocked, but I shouldn't be, because this is a prototypical Armenian story.
Yeah.
Picking up languages as a survival skill and picking them up because that's what you do. Like, I think in the U.S., this sounds so fantastic, right? And so extraordinary. But for most people in the world, this is how you navigate life.
Sure. Yeah. I have some European friends. When you see them, they're like English, French, German, Italian, Spanish.
Yes.
Yeah,
so absolutely.
fluent.
Absolutely.
So cool.
It's
I love it.
So I discovered you, I guess, years ago when I saw Tangerine, and I didn't know there was an Armenian character. I just heard about the movie and I watched. And I remember doing one of these, like, when I saw your character, not because it was an Armenian character, but because it was an Armenian-speaking character who spoke like me. And then I remember there was a scene in the home, and I was like, wow, this is like pretty accurate. This is what a Armenian immigrant home would look like, including the food on the table, including the rugs on the wall, and so on. And then I remember hearing about Anora. I heard there are 2 Armenian actors, and sometimes I do this trick to myself where I don't want to know anything. I just want to be surprised. So I dragged my husband, as I always do, to this movie and had the time of my life watching this movie. And you stole the show and our hearts. And then I told every human being about it, literally, I came across. But I kept thinking, Because I'm a scholar of language, I'm someone who thinks about language. What was it that left such a strong impression on me? And the reason I wanted to have this conversation so much is because I thought the language dynamics were so phenomenally done. And I had seen it done so poorly elsewhere. And and I'm no film expert, so I'll just tell you what I assess in general, and I'm curious what you think as someone in the film industry. Either it's a film that gives the actors some strange Eastern European accent to convey that they are speaking a foreign language, which I find so patronizing and condescending to the audience, as if we couldn't possibly imagine that these people are speaking a foreign language. Or on the other end of the spectrum, like Armenian films from Armenia, people will be speaking this literary textbook Armenian in the most intimate environments, which is completely unnatural. None of us speak textbook Armenian, particularly in very intimate emotional scenes. And then in Anora, I was like, oh my God. Not only do you have people speaking the languages they should be speaking, but they're using registers and tones and particular jargon that is appropriate for all of the scenes. So I guess my first question is this something you think about in your work, how languages and people's linguistic repertoires are portrayed in films? And what was that conversation going into Anora about the language dynamics?
Yeah, so thank you for kind words, first of all. So number one thing when we make a movie with Sean is authenticity, right? So going into it, and, you know, a long time ago, me and Sean wrote a film together. It took us about 3 years, also based in Brighton Beach. So it started then. For me, I wanted the characters to speak the way I speak, and I, you know, you might say like I speak 3 or 4 languages, but I actually don't speak any of them fluently or well enough, right? Good or bad, but that's my reality, and that's the reality of a lot of people I know. And it was very important for me to keep that authenticity, the nuances in the humor, you know, the sensibility in Russian and in Armenian. And we were very, very focused. It was, and Sean is the same way. That our characters speak the way I know, the Armenian, the Russian, with mixed words. Perhaps because I don't know how to speak that clean, beautiful Armenian. Maybe that's what it is. But because some people criticize me, I see, you know, how calm, beautiful I'm like, you know, this is how I speak, and that's how I know. This is what. Anyway, so yeah, everything was very important. So we were, you know, very particular about authenticity.
But I assume Sean doesn't know Armenian.
Yeah.
And I assume he doesn't know Russian.
No.
Was there a language consultant?
Yeah, we had our script supervisor was Russian. Of course, I was keeping an eye on it, and we also had everybody else working on that, but in Armenian, he basically trusted me. And
so that's what I assumed, and I wanted to ask what it must feel like for you as an actor to also have that, what's the word, like herinakutsun, right? You have this elevated authorial role now as the person responsible for this very important aspect of this film, which is this particular language dynamic. So, for example, I guess, so the script is written in English, but there's so many lines that you and the character of Karren are speaking in Armenian. So who translated those into Armenian? Were they improvised? How did that whole dynamic
Yeah,
come to play?
if I thought about it the way you said it, I would have been so nervous. So I didn't even think about it. It was a job to do, and I kind of felt comfortable doing it. And I was blessed with my partner, Vacha. When we met, we established this great energy together. Friendship, we're still best friends. Mm-hmm. And it was very easy to bounce off each other when we were improvising. 90% of Armenian is improvised. We had like one sentence written, and Sean would say, "This is what I wanted, you know, to get in," and then the rest you guys improvise. And you know, there were some scenes that there's a scene in gas station. So he told me, "I want you to go in English, maneuver in Russian, and then come out Armenian." And I was like, what should I do? But we did it again, thanks to my partner, the scene partners. It worked out great. And I came out, I'm like, I like this. It worked.
But I want to go back to something you said because I have to disagree. I think even if you had command of this beautiful Armenian, it wouldn't be appropriate for this context.
Right.
And I would have found it as an audience member very artificial. And what I appreciated so much is like, if you were my uncle, that's how you would have spoken.
Sure.
And even the English-Russian-Armenian mix, because that's our reality. I know people don't like to accept this, especially those who are attached to this pure, beautiful Armenian. But most of us live in Armglish or Rusglish or a combination of Armenian and Russian. And I think I was just telling our student workers outside, as a child of the Soviet Union, who grew up with Armenian, Russian, and now English in the US, this was my entire linguistic repertoire on the screen, mixed in this beautiful and authentic way that I think part of the reason I loved the movie so much was that this is our reality. And I found that so masterfully done. And I really have been waiting to tell you that. My hat is off to, and I think it's not an easy thing to do because there are so many gatekeepers in the Armenian world who live in denial and think that we should be speaking textbook Armenian. But as a sociolinguist, for me, that's absurd. I found that part extremely, extremely refreshing.
Yeah. We had the similar situation when we're making Tangerine. If you recall, there is a lot of, not a lot, but there is a good bunch of Armenians spoken there. And when we were writing it, I remember I told Arsen Grigoryan, he was playing the other cab driver, he wanted to describe the holidays, and I said, I want you to use the word praznik.
Yes.
It was important for him to say praznik.
Yes.
Like such a funny, it's like, it's us, it's also funny, because to be funny is like number one thing for me. And then what did he say? He said I think it translated to LA at Christmas time is like a beautifully wrapped lie or something like that. Also, we translated that. So yeah, Tangerine, we had similar experience.
The other thing I noticed is there's a lot of cursing in this film. And even those dynamics, I think, again, perhaps for an American audience, the Soviet or post-Soviet reality isn't as legible. But those of us in the Soviet Union grew up with Russian really as an integral part of our reality. And certain codes of masculinity or certain turns of phrase work so well in Russian. And I thought even that aspect of Toros's character as this problem solver, as the adult in the room, and the way you designate which language is for which character. You have these private moments with Garnik that are in Armenian, or private moments with yourself where you're like, I have to do this. I thought even those, the selection of how the languages are distributed, and even in the curse words, I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to have worked with Sean for so long, and we kind of developed this trust together, right? So he trusts me on those. He says what language this line should be spoken, and whatever I feel natural at that moment of emotion, like what would the character say, that's what we do.
Who did the subtitles in English?
Sean.
And what about the
and
Armenian?
I helped, of course.
Because I kept the first time I heard Horisarev, which literally would be, I swear on the son of my father, right? The son, given this Armenians' pagan background as fire worshippers. And I was like, oh my God, if someone asked me to translate all of these. I know, but it was so, even that aspect I thought was really well done. And usually I'm the linguist in the room going, no, that wasn't, that wasn't accurate. I also, I was watching some of the scenes today in preparation for this interview, and I wanted to talk about body language, because even that for me was the way Toros exudes authority and this kind of like immigrant survival kit I thought was amazing. And even there's a scene where you make fun of the young people for being on TikTok and Instagram, and the way you hold your hand and your body. I was like, oh my God, that's my dad. Like, that's my uncle. How aware are you of your body language?
Usually, if I think about that too much, it will not allow me to be free and relaxed. And for me, the most important is to be relaxed in the moment and trust myself and my instincts and my body, and the rest will be done. The only thing I changed, like I worked on changing, was my run. I wanted Toros to run a specific way. The rest is, came at the, in the moment.
Which way? To run which way?
I wanted him to run in a way that it would make audience go a little bit like, kind of like, like he runs a little bit like a bird with his legs, with his feet. When he grabs the scarf, I ran twice in this film. And the other one got a little bit cut, but one is that one, and the other one is when he sees the car being towed.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a long run, but it got cut off.
Whose idea was the scene in the church to depict Toros as a godfather to a child?
I helped. And besides that, that same church, same corner, with same priest, I baptized 3 kids in Queens. That's also from my real life. Yeah.
Again, I was curious for a non-Armenian audience how that would translate, because for me, the first thing I thought is like,
yeah.
This man is the godfather to a child, which means this man is a family man. This man is a community man. This man is no gangster or henchman.
Right.
This man is a trusted figure in this community. Like, that for me told the entire story of your character.
Right. Sometimes some critics don't understand the character well, so I always, when they talk to me, they say, you're playing a bad guy. I always say, I don't want to change their mind, but I say it's a responsible bad guy. He's a family bad guy, so he's not there to break anybody's legs. Or, of course, probably in this character's experience, there have been situations where he had to go to the violence, but not here, because he's dealing with kids.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, and I really thought, again, watching today for the second time in preparation, that Toros has to baby Garnik. Yeah. He has to baby Igor, so he's responsible for them. Vanya is the ultimate baby, and he actually calls him a child in all of the languages, whether it's a Ribionik or a Serechen, Yevailen. And really, Anora and Toros are the only adults in the room. And at some point, I realized, oh my God, they're partners in this mission.
Exactly.
They find their match in the other person. And Toros is the only person who's real with him, with her. And I thought that's another interesting aspect of this particular character who doesn't have time for BS. Yeah. He's like, honey, this is the situation.
Yeah, that's how I see it too.
I also realized, because going with my husband to the movie theaters knowing nothing, I had no idea I was going to laugh so much. Just laugh and have a great time. And watching the scenes where Toros shows up, and you show up at minute 50 or 51 in the film. And yet I left thinking like, Toros stole the show. But so much of the chaos in those initial scenes is like exacerbated by the language chaos, because not only is there physical altercations, they're all screaming and cussing in 3 languages.
Yeah.
And I thought from Anora's perspective, she's a heritage speaker of Russian. She knows a little bit. So even for her, it's extra stress because she can't understand all of the Russian. On top of it, this Armenian. And I thought, oh my God, what a brilliant move by the director to introduce these layers. And then for an American audience, it's just noise. And the trust that Sean and all of you had in the audience that it's okay. It's okay for you to be in the chaos as well, for you to feel that. Again, maybe I didn't catch it the first time watching it second time around. That chaos and the linguistic kind of clamor around it was beautifully insane and intense.
Sean is a master of filming controlled chaos, but he is very subtly is controlling that chaos. he wants the chaos to happen, but he is like very softly kind of directing in his way, the way he likes it. There was also a chaos, if you remember, in Tangerine at the donut shop. That Armenian was crazy.
Does it feel? I want to go back to cursing because this is something I work on currently, but also it's such a sensitive topic in the Armenian world, right? Cursing is a male domain. It is selectively applied when only men are present. And here you are, this Armenian character kind of cursing all the time. Do you think about that? How do you deal with those dynamics of an entire cultural upbringing? Or is it you're an actor and you have carte blanche? This is not me. This is a character.
No, I thought about it a lot. And actually, we were debating, and I didn't want to have those strong curse words in Armenian in the film because I was talking to Vache about it because it was up to us to decide. Of course, if you listen to Sean, he says just curse your way away. Okay, you curse as much as you want. I want you to curse. And I'm like, Sean, these curses in Armenian don't sound, they're gonna, it's sensitive. So Vache says to me, he goes, imagine you in this very angry situation, you're Armenian guy, wouldn't you curse in real life? I'm like, of course I would curse, but imagine your uncle goes to a movie to watch this film, and then all of a sudden you curse. Is he going to be, he goes, no, it's okay. So anyway, I wanted to find a balance where it's not too much. And there are some points where they took a lot of takes, and I gave Sean options, and I told him what I said, and he picked the curses. But also some other parts we cursed, I remember, in Armenia. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it worked out. I don't know how. I haven't watched the film with the Armenian audience, but I hope.
You know, there's a podcast out of Armenia called Rearrange. It's probably the most popular podcast out of Armenia, and I listen frequently. And the last episode started with a discussion about Anora. And I was like, the fact that Armenians in Armenia are discussing, and they were talking about language dynamics and portrayal and so on, that made me very happy that this has become a topic of kind of intellectual debate and artistic debate.
I'm happy because when we made Tangerine, my Armenian audience was not happy. I was getting these messages: we're gonna find you, we're gonna kill you, we're gonna break your legs, arms, blah blah. So, but
Toros style.
So now I got a call, and they said they want to show Tangerine in the university to the kids, and the professors are going to join. They wanted me to go and do Zoom Q&A with them. I said sure, but anyway. So what I mean is, I'm happy that there is thinking audience right now in Armenia, and this young generation is great.
I also was thinking how happy I was to have you here today because we're at a university. We work with a lot of young students. There's over 1,000 Armenian students on this campus. And I thought, how great for them to see an Armenian role model in the arts. Because yesterday we had a guest lecture on film. I have a class of 21 students, and I said, how many of you have ever had a parent or a mentor tell you, honey, when you grow up, you should go into film? 0. How many of you had your parents tell you, doctor, lawyer, engineer? Everyone's hands went up. I get it. Immigrant communities, parents want their kids to have stable jobs, but you have to have models to aspire to something. Do you think about that? That for many young people, particularly Armenian-Americans or Armenians all over the world who tend to be conservative diaspora communities, you serve that role as that role model, that this is a potential path for someone?
Yeah, I think our film, and that's what I love about this, that it kind of built a little bridge, right? Especially when we came out of Cannes, people were writing me. They were like, we always thought of Cannes something like out of worldly, like a different planet. And all of a sudden we see you guys, and it built that bridge that now I'm sitting there in Yerevan in film school, when I see Karren and Vace are in Cannes, if they can do it, why can't we? And that's my message to them. If I can do it, all of you can do it. Of course you can. All you have to do is just want it and keep going, keep doing it, keep going at it, right? And not giving up. You'll get there.
And it's such a powerful message.
Yeah.
I know it seems so simple, but it's not.
It's not simple. When you're in this industry, the most important thing is to learn how to deal with rejection, with that negative energy. Once you understand that that's part of the package, you take it the way it needs to be taken. You need to take it, wrap it, and let it go. And then, because you're going to get 9 rejections and maybe one a job or positive or gig, whatever. But I went through so many rejections that at some point I said, I quit. I don't want to do this. It's just taking away so much of my life and time, and it's not working out. But of course, I had, family, 4 kids, this and that. But for young people who have their parents, supporting, which is very important. You have to have support when you're going at this, because it's very hard to pay bills in the beginning. And you basically, until you make it, you're the only one who believe in your work, right? Nobody else does. So, yeah, it's tough, but doable.
Can we talk about your name?
Sure.
Karren Karagulian. And the fact that you didn't change your name. Did it ever come up? Did you ever consider? It comes up every day.
They always call me Miss Karagulian and Miss Karagulian. Karren, and
yes.
Even we went up for interview at Cannes Film Festival. Everybody was sitting there. It's like the most important interview of your life. And the lady goes, and this is Karren Karagulian. I'm like, Karren. And I made her say my name 3 times, and this is on video. And until she said it, then we moved on.
Yeah.
They should learn.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And I think that's also important for me, is that you see a name like Karren Karagulian on a screen, and you see Vace Tovmasyan, and you see them embodying it so comfortably.
Yeah.
I was an early graduate student at UCLA. My professor was Richard Hovhannisyan, who's this very famous historian. I was pregnant with my daughter, and I said, Professor Hovhannisyan, any advice for the name? And he said, Armenian, 2 to 3 syllables. Don't go over 3 syllables. And he said, remember, the complex is with us, not with the rest of the world. His wife's name was Vartiter, and she was a doctor. And he said, if everyone at Cedar Sinai or Kaiser, I don't remember, can say, hello, Dr. Vartiter, they can say plenty of other things.
Sure.
I want to also touch on, how do you think Armenians are portrayed in film? And how conscious or sensitive are you to that? Or should that not even be a question? You are in a creative field. You have a creative director. Is that a question worth asking?
No.
Is that an annoying question for you?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Armenians are regular people, man. There's nothing special about being Armenian. So it could be this way, that way, anyway.
I agree. I think we tend to think we're a special species, but we're just regular humans.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And also the other problem is that we, deep inside, we all know that we're regular, but for some reason we don't want to be portrayed regular. Armenians are like, they all want to be Sasunsi David. It doesn't work like that, right?
Or the perpetual victim.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I made this film. We took it to Russia. I made another film with wrote a film, and I'm the lead in it with the Russian director. It's called Welcome Home. If you guys ever get it's hard to find it, but anyway. So part of this film is I wrote on my life. Like, this guy comes, he works in a rug store, and this acting thing comes on him. So anyway, we showed it at this very prestigious, the most prestigious film festival in Russia. We came out, and this Armenian guy comes to me. Of course, we got friendly later, and I kept on telling him, do you remember? Sorry. And he goes, yeah, but why didn't you, why you portray Armenian this way? And I said, I mean, what do you expect? This is what happened to me. That was, how do you thought about, am I going to be Sasunsi David? So anyway, for some reason, every Armenian wants to watch a movie and see an Armenian being like, I don't know, a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not right.
I think there's a couple of problems. One is that all Armenians are alike.
Yeah.
I think that's the first problem in this particular misconception. All Armenians are good, kind, whatever, heroic. And two, this thinking of this kind of uniqueness. But I think part of it is because people aren't used to seeing themselves on screen, right? So the moment they do, they want all of their aspirations to be packaged into this one character, and that entire responsibility falls on someone like you who's creating art that should reflect life, maybe, in some cases.
I agree.
Was film your path, your intended path?
No. I was in 90s. Film for me was like I was doing favors to my director friends. They were like, please be in my film, please. So up until 2007 or something is when first time I thought to myself, when I grow up, I want to become an actor. Of course, I was almost 40 with 3 kids. But no, I never went to school. I have no education in acting, which is probably not good. But everything I know, I learned by experience.
Are you happy now you're in film?
So, when you immigrate, you don't get to do what you like. You get to do what you have to do in order to survive, right? So when I kind of understood what I like about acting, I felt like there is something deep somewhere there, hidden, that I never got to explore, and I connect with that. I still didn't pull it out. It's still down there somewhere, right? But I feel like maybe in a different life, I would have become an actor if it didn't go this way.
Wow.
Or be in films or do something, I don't know, maybe even write films or stuff like that.
Have you had offers to be in films in Armenia? Have you ever worked with an Armenian director?
No. Yeah, actually I worked with Michael Aloyan, but from here. Mm-hmm. No, in Armenia, no.
In Carnivore? No. I'm in
Carnivore? In Carnivore, and also before that, we did a film called This Land.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very cool little short film, and I love Michael. And,
I'm citing it in an article I'm writing about masculinity.
Yeah, he wrote me this very touching letter years ago about the character to play, and at the end he wrote that if you don't play this character, and he was a student at
UCLA,
right?
Yeah.
He said, if you don't play this character, I am not going to make this film. So. But we made it work, and I'm happy.
What would be the ideal role for Karren Karagulian?
I don't think about that.
No?
No.
But if you
Something
had to
that
write...
touches my heart, I do it. Of course, I am very sensitive and picky with the scripts. You won't believe how much bad quality scripts are out there. Like, for example, now I'm excited to play a devil. Hopefully, they offered me this part, and I want to help them produce it. So they offered me also to produce, and I'm gonna, if things work out, of course. The most important is to find financing for it, right? But it kind of got me excited to play a devil.
Does the devil speak Armenian?
The devil, I want to make this project, if possible, made in Armenia, so we can go to international markets. The devil is Armenian or not Armenian. Things are happening in Armenia. Languages he speaks, we'll see what language he speaks. I don't know.
Or what languages he curses in.
Yeah.
when necessary. What question should I have asked that I didn't ask?
No, I don't know.
Well, thank you so much. As someone in academia for 20 years, I think I've come to learn how hard, how important and how hard narrative is, and the crucial role of the arts. I think if we didn't have the arts,
Sure, no life.
we would be sinking. Yeah, so I'm so grateful to have Armenian artists, however the path that took you there, to help us all tell stories that move us, regardless. I mean, I think it's nice as an Armenian woman to see a fellow Armenian, but I didn't like Anora because there were two Armenian characters. I liked Anora because it is a fantastic film with a fantastic cast. But as an Armenian woman and as a sociolinguist, I just loved the extra, like I got the extra bonuses because all of my kind of professional check marks were.
Yeah, in my world, when people ask me why you didn't portray an Armenian as a Sasunsi David, I say, for example, if the Anora was made would have been made anyway, instead of Armenians, there would have been Italians or Russians or something. Why not Armenians? Because this is real life. These people exist. This is how they speak, they live, they do things, and I like it.
I think the other aspect is that kind of immigrant survival instinct, you get this done no matter what. I think I recognize that because I'm an immigrant child with an immigrant family, and those situations, the parking the car, the whatever, that also I found very exciting and familiar. Like, you know, I people always ask me, what's your favorite Armenian word? I always say harazat because I don't know how to translate it. Is it familial or familiar? And they're both related, but I think there is something special to seeing something harazat on screen, and it has to be authentic for it to be harazat.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So.
Plus, my goal was also to make it funny. So for you to laugh without me working hard to make you laugh.
Yes.
For all of us, for everything we did, that was like one of the most important things, because I think when one goes to a movie theater, for me, it's very important that my audience is entertained. They just go into it and they get entertained.
Yes, and it's not funny because of buffoonery.
Right.
It's funny because there's a really semi-tragic situation unfolding, and yet I remember when we walked out of the theater, I turned to Vatch and I was like, that comedic timing was insane. And I feel like it had been a long time where I had been that entertained. And that's, by the way, that's another thing we talk about with my linguist friends, is we don't have a good word for entertain in Armenian. Like, how would you say to entertain someone in Armenian? It's interesting, che?
Զվարճացնել.
But it doesn't,
right.
That means like կապկություն անեմ, դու էլ ծիծաղես. It's not in the sense of I get entertained, like
right.
I'm stimulated. My senses are stimulated. My intellect is stimulated. So maybe we need to work on that.
Okay.
Building in that word. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your work. This was such a treat.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
You've been listening to Language Therapy with Dr. Shushan Karapetian, a podcast series from the USC Institute of Armenian Studies. This episode was produced by Dr. Karapetian, edited by Samvel Krajan, who also composed the original music. For more from the USC Institute of Armenian Studies, visit the Institute's website at armenian.usc.edu and follow the Institute on all social media platforms.